Didn't. Never mind.
Started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself. I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center. Probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Well, off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Oh, we're going to talk. We are going to talk. We have got a lot of things to talk about. Welcome to a emergency podcast, a breaking news. It's the emergency. Just a second. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey. Of course, Facebook.com live on the Hockey Podcast. Find us live there. YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast. And subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. It will be up shortly after this, as this has been a wild, just a little bit over 12 hours of breaking news and emergencies. Yeah, see, emergency. It's been an emergency. We've got we're going to focus mostly on this, the Flames. Do we start Flames or Canucks? We never even discussed this. Let's start Flames, because I think that is the bigger news. The Flames last night, Dylan Dubé scores his first ever hat trick. The Flames beat the Ottawa Senators 7-3. And then late 11 o'clock Calgary time, the Calgary Flames released a tweet that the Flames fired Geoff Ward and hired Darryl Sutter as their new head coach, returning. We'll break that down. And then just about an hour ago, Jim Benning finished with the Vancouver Canucks media. We'll talk about that after. Sean, full disclosure, I listened to the Flames press conference. Sean listened to the Canucks press conference. And so we'll get to that a little bit later. If you guys have any comments or questions or anything like that, please let us know as we go through this, what you think. So we'll start with Devin. Devin, I guess, I'll say, before we hear from you, Devin, I this is the one thing I do want to say in regards to Geoff Ward. This is not an easy position to be in. I don't think he was put into an easy position. First of all, being in a place where he had to take over from a very awkward situation for Bill Peters to take over, and then going through this COVID protocol, not being a head coach in the National Hockey League and navigating through some really tough times. There's no one that said he was a bad human being in any way, shape, or form, but I think in a lot of ways he was caught in a very, very unfortunate position that I think frustrated a lot of Flames fans. I think it sounds to me the way that this was presented and some of the things that were said, I think the players were frustrated, and I think ultimately Treliving had no choice. But Devin, we'll just get your thoughts on what has happened and kind of get your perspective. We'll start with you.
Yeah, it kind of sucks for Ward being, like, you laid it out right there, Kev, coming into just a shitty situation. Made the best out of it last year. Had a winning record before COVID hit. And I have no doubt in my mind that he will find another NHL job. It just might take a little bit. And I'm not saying he's going to be a head coach, but I think he'll be a part of the coaching staff somewhere along the line within the next couple of years. So, we wish all the best for Geoff Ward. It just didn't work out here for him. But to transition to Darryl Sutter coming in, talk about a 180. You have a head coach that is he holds players accountable. He really is an old school style coach, John Tortorella esque type of coach. And I mean, if you've been following the Flames for as long as I have, back in 2004, obviously he took them on a run to the Stanley Cup Finals. Was one goal away from winning a Stanley Cup, and you can't discount that. Obviously, he won 2 cups in LA as well. So he has the cachet, he has the respect coming into it. Not like real. If you go down the list of a Bill Peters, sure, yeah, he has a bit of respect before coming in. He was a head coach before with Carolina. Glenn Gulletson, this was his first head coaching job. Jim Playfair, first head coaching job. Brent Sutter, just go down the list of coaches, and I think this is the most well-respected coach that you could have potentially gotten, other than Gerard Gallant or Claude Julien. So, as far as the questions that are coming out right now are, okay, how are the players going to react to this? Is Sam Bennett going to be able to come out and play the way that he needs to play? And along with Sean Monahan, Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, go down the list of players, and who is going to be in his favor. And this hiring Darryl Sutter is, I think, exactly what this team needs. They need accountability. They need to be able to hear exactly what a coach is looking for. And Daryl will actually tell them exactly, straight face-to-face, what they need to do from shift in, shift out, and no bullshit. And I think, I'm not saying that Geoff Ward didn't do that, but obviously it wasn't resonating properly with the players. So I personally am a fan of Darryl Sutter coming in. I think that he will have that voice. He'll have a major voice in that room, and there's not going to be any bullshit. You'll find out within the next 2.5 weeks where everybody stands within that dressing room, and who needs to, pull up their socks and get going, or you're going to be left behind. And I mean, either that or you're going to be in the press box. End of story.
Before Sean goes, something that is important to say here is Darryl Sutter will not be available this weekend for the Oilers game and the Senators game. He still needs to go through COVID protocol. So Ryan Huska is running the bench for both of those games, and Darryl Sutter will be with the team on Monday. And apparently, according to the press conference, him and Tree Living did speak to the team over Zoom, and they split within two groups and talked amongst themselves. We'll delve into that a little bit. Shauna, as the outsider, curious what your thoughts are.
This is Brad Treliving trying to save his job. This is plain and simple Brad Treliving making a move to save his job. Darryl Sutter is not coached in this league for 3 years. Devin talked about the Stanley Cup run that he took the Flames on. How old were you when that Stanley Cup run was Dev?
I was 14.
Exactly. You're now 30.
Yep.
It's so long ago. The fact that Brad Treliving has been allowed to there's extenuating circumstances, but this is the 5th coach that Brad Treliving's 5th
that he hired.
Not that he hired, but has been under that he has had in his reign. This is the 4th he's hired.
Yeah, that's fair.
And we're still like, and it's the core. He's made a couple tweaks here and there, but the same core is still here. And it's they've chased away. They've made Brad Treliving make 4 coaching changes in this during his tenure, and he hasn't done anything with this core, like any significant tinkering with this core. Yes, he brought in Dougie Hamilton and then traded him away. Okay, but the core is Sean Monahan, Johnny Gaudreau, and then they've had rotating pieces. So if this doesn't work, if this doesn't shake up this team, I don't know what will, other than than Brad Treliving getting off his hands and actually making a trade.
Getting off his hands? Come on, man. He's made so many trades. He's not afraid to make trades. It's the fact that who are you going to get back? And yes, I am a Brad Treliving honk, if you will. I like what he's done. I don't think he sits on his hands. He's on the phones all the fucking time. That's what you hear.
PM is.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Jim Benning. Great. Oh, yeah. Awesome. I don't know. I just the fact that not every single GM job is cut and dry. Okay, you have two hires and then you're done. Like, yeah, that is the what has happened in the past. But right now, man, like this is Brad Treliving's last chance. Yes, I think that he has a year and a half to roll with it. Has an off season to see what he can do. As far as trade goes, if nothing happens this year, if they don't go on a run, if they don't, if all of a sudden Darryl Sutter is the Greg Berube of a couple years ago, I can't. I have a hard time hearing when people criticize him because yes, he does need to be criticized.
Go ahead,
but he's done a lot, and the fact that you're just like, oh yeah, I guess he traded for Dougie Hamilton, and then he traded him away. Oh, I guess you traded for Elias Lindholm, who's been arguably one of the best players on this fucking team. So sorry, I have a hard time just passing those trades off like they're nothing.
But the whole thing is that what the two players, the core that this team has been built around, and there's always been questions about this locker room, and he hasn't fixed it. And now he has to go back into the old toy chest, bring out Darryl Sutter from the farm, and see what he can do. This is a complete and utter desperation move by Brad Treliving. Yes, everything you said in terms of what Daryl can bring is true, but this is still a desperation move. He's tied. Treliving's tied Daryl's tenure with this team, contract-wise, to his. And you're right; they've got a year to a year and a half to figure this shit out. And if they don't, then they're both gone. And if they don't get any sort of playoff success, this team they're going to have to move on because the playoff success under Brad Treliving is minimal. They've made the playoffs 3 times. They won 1 round. They have 7 total playoff game wins in 7 years. And there's always been this constant cloud over top of this team with the locker room issues. And that cloud has not gone away. So if Daryl can fix that, great for the Flames. Great for the Flames fans. But I'm not sold on him being able to do that because they've had Hartley, hard-ass coach who you had to listen to. They've had Bill Peters, hard-ass coach that they had to listen to.
The question is, did they respect that coach? Darryl Sutter
they aren't respecting their coach. These previous 4 coaches, that's a major issue, and Daryl's not fixing that.
Of course he's not, but at the same time, man, he has the tenure of respect coming in. Like you fucking better respect Darryl Sutter, or else you will be sitting, right? And I think it also has to do with the fact that that is the criticism is that okay, yeah, he's a dinosaur, and he the last time that he coached in this league was 2013, 2014, right? So yeah, that's a long time ago. But look at Tortorella; he's changed. He was able to tweak, and he's still brash and still not able to. Or he rubs players the wrong way, like Pierre-Luc Dubois, like we saw earlier this year. He asked for a trade, and yeah, it just I don't know. I just feel like overall he will do good for this team. And yes, it is a desperation move on Brad Treliving's part, but it's a desperation move on the entire Calgary Flames as a whole. Period. And this is I know we've been saying this forever. This is the last straw for Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan. This really is. And if anybody would be able to get the best out of any type of player, it is Darryl Sutter.
Okay, so this is where I want to start. And Elliot Friedman spoke on 960 this morning, and he said what I was speculating all along. As much as people were thinking that this was such a ridiculous notion and it was like nonsense, I think that it sounds to me like Darryl Sutter was in the back pocket of Brad Treliving all along. If you remember, they took a long time to decide that Ward was coming back. And Friedman speculated that maybe that was Darryl Sutter. Treliving did admit that he was talking to Darryl Sutter. So there is that. I think one of the reasons that he's there is ownership. I think had a lot to do with this decision. I don't think that they would have. I don't think they wanted to pay for another coach, and I think they knew Darryl Sutter. They have a relationship with Darryl Sutter, and they let that happen. I think, to me, if this doesn't work, what I will say is I don't think that Darryl Sutter is going to leave. I think that Brad Treliving will leave. This is Brad Treliving's final straw. And I think, quite frankly, this organization gave the reins to Darryl Sutter. If Treliving doesn't work, Darryl's going upstairs again. I know that Flames fans don't like to hear it, but I think that there's a relationship there. To me, Devin, this we have talked about. There are Flames podcasts out there. There are Flames media folk out there. There have been Flames fans out there that have mocked that team up north of you on the Queen Elizabeth Highway there in cold Edmonton for the amount of coaches that they have brought in and how they are the laughing stock of the league. How can you possibly sit here and tell me that 5 coaches in 6 years is any sign of success? And by the way, let's not forget the fact that he spent draft capital trades on trying to get a goaltender into this organization, and he had trouble doing it. He gave up a non-lottery protected first round pick for Travis Hamonic. I'm sorry. I look at this and I think that Brad Treliving needs to wear this a lot more than you wish to give him credit for. I know that are there some things that he's done pretty well. Has the drafting improved since Brad Treliving has been here? Yes. Has he tried to make trades and has he made trades? Yes. But are the same issues over and over and over again coming up? Yes. And here's another one. He sounds to me from this press conference, the only option that he was going with to replace Geoff Ward is Darryl Sutter. This is, again, another issue. He did this with Bill Peters. He had his sights set on Bill Peters, and no one else was going to be his option. It's Geoff Ward, same thing. He had his sights set on Geoff Ward, and no one else was going to be his option. Darryl Sutter, this was the only option. Like he said it 3 times in the press conference. The only person that can make this change is Darryl Sutter. To me, he is not doing the due diligence that I think is needed to get the job done to make sure that the right coach fits this organization. And I'm not saying that Darryl Sutter is a terrible coach, and I'm not saying that Darryl Sutter can't turn this organization around, but it sure hell seems to me that Brad Treliving has a very myopic view of what can turn this. And for a guy that is making a lot of phone calls that is known for due diligence, the coaching search has really lacked due diligence. Hello, Carl. And hello to Carl. It is good to see Carl in the conversation.
Yes, he's meowing like crazy. I'm trying to get him to stop. He has to, though. Get back on track, though. He has to say those things to back his decision, right? And I don't know, man. It just like if you bring up Travis Hamonic, they thought they were one piece away from doing well and going for a playoff run. And on paper, this team looks great, but it doesn't change the fact that they haven't had any success.
Didn't Jim Benning, who we're about to laugh at and critique in a few minutes here, acquire JT Miller for a draft lottery protected first round pick? Isn't that just an extra step that you do to make sure for a guy, again, with the reputation of being due diligent, you do to make sure that is a draft lottery protected pick? That is a legitimate National Hockey League top 2-3 defenseman that is in the New York Islanders organization right now. That would look damn good in a Flames Blasty jersey. Like, to me, that's just, it's another, like, like I'm sorry. I'll say this. This will piss you off, Devin. I'm sorry. I love you, but I think Brad Treliving is the most overrated general manager in the National Hockey League, and this media group fawns over him like he's got a TED talk on it. Oh my goodness! Wow, Brad Treliving's done nothing amazing again. He brought back Darryl Sutter. Let's all hug and sing "Kumbaya" on the tractor. Wow! Can someone in the Flames media ask some actual hard questions? Granted, some people did. Carl is agreeing with me, but some people did. But come on, with this fawning of him, like, my gosh.
I would be very curious on what other general managers say about him and the way he conducts his business. That's all speculation, but I truly wonder how Steve Yzerman thinks of him. You know, the high end GMs that have been in this league forever, Lou Lamoriello. I guess even like he hasn't been around for a while, but Dubas as well. So I know that's like nothing that we can only speculate on, but everything that I've heard is good, and that might be the media's problem. That might be the media just sugarcoating everything. But I feel like they're like Ryan Pinder. We've talked about Ryan Pinder in the media. He scrutinizes everything. If he feels like that he isn't, you're not getting the right perspective, he will tell you straight up. So I don't know, man. It's just it's really hard to. God, I don't even know it. Yeah, sorry, I got nothing. My brain is just turning right now. So But okay, let's get off the Brad Treliving train and let's go on to Darryl Sutter as a coach. How do you think he's going to impact this lineup, Kev?
Well, I think I don't know, to be honest with you. I think that there's some good things. I don't think that he's as outdated as people think that he is. I think it sounds to me, it sort of reminds me a little bit about what people thought of Dave Tippett, and I think there's some similarities there. I think he's smarter at hockey than I think a lot, and more up to date on hockey than people give him credit for. So I will give him that. The issue is there's still some lineup questions here. Who are you playing? Like if you're splitting it, like he said today that he's not splitting up the lines based on what he saw before from last night. You still is Josh Levo truly the answer between Monahan and Goodrow? I don't know of that. I don't like. Here's another criticism. Just go back too quickly to Treliving. Josh Levo, Dominic Simo, and Joaquin Nostrom. 1 goal between all 3 of them, and it was scored last night by Josh Levo.
Josh Levo just came off of major knee surgery as well.
Okay, but I'm just bringing up that another, as Bick Nazar, a friend of the show, says, facts only. Then you look at. Then the other question, and no one asked this, what are you doing with Sam Bennett? Is he off? He was a healthy scratch last night. Is he a healthy scratch until he's gone? Are we seeing him back in the lineup? Are we running with these 12 forwards until something needs to be changed? I mean, obviously, you're probably going with Markstrom in goal. Are you making a change on defense here? What about Shalinin and Nesterov? So my answer to that question is I honestly don't know. I don't know how this team is going to react right away to Darryl Sutter. I think that there's a lot of wait and see there. That doesn't dispute that he's a good coach, but I think this comes down to where are the players with this? How are they going to respond to it? I think there's players that will respond well. I think Matthew Tkachuk will thrive under Darryl Sutter, but what about is Sean Monahan going to thrive under Darryl Sutter? I can't say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam Bennett is right up Darryl Sutter's alley for the type of player that he wants to play. North-south. I think the best way that Sam Bennett needs to play is north-south, bang crash, and you get the puck to the skill players. I think he has that. I just feel like he hasn't had that direction.
But Devin, he said he wanted to change the scenery. That is.
Well, this is a change of scenery right now. Everybody gets a brand new lease on life. With a new coach, with a new boss, you get a brand new lease on life. I think you can't write him off just like that. Yes, he wants to change, like he wants to leave because the way that he was getting deployed. So you have to give him at least a month if not a bit more, to get acquainted with Darryl Sutter and the way that he's going to be doing things. You can't just write him off.
This feels like the Jake Virtanen conversation all over again. It's just in Calgary.
But Jake Virtanen, can we all agree that Sam Bennett is a better player than Jake Virtanen? No? You think Jake Virtanen is a better player than Sam Bennett?
I'm not convinced that. I'm not saying that Bennett is worse than Jake Virtanen is better than Sam Bennett, but I'm not going to sit here and jump up and down and based on what I see that Sam Bennett is way better than Jake Virtanen. That's a
I didn't say
argument.
way better. I didn't say way better. I said a bit. I said better. Right?
I think
that he is.
Is he more versatile? Sure. Has he? Is there? Do I see similar issues? Yes, I do.
Yep.
Maybe Sean has an input on that, but
I'm just trying to pull up their stats for the past couple of years and compare them against each other. They're both negative players. In the past, so from 2018-19 till now, Sam Bennett in 145 games has 24 goals and 43 points and is a -17. In the same amount of time, Jake Virtanen has played 161 games, has 36 goals, 64 points, and is a -10. Now, plus minus is a tough stat to really show how good a player is, but I think over a stretch of 2 to 3 years, you see a little bit of pattern there. So I don't the difference between 17 and 10 isn't really that big for over 3 years, but Jake Virtanen has more offensive upside when he's on than Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett brings a lot more of a physicality to his game, even though I think he's a little smaller than Jake Virtanen. And you're a lot more accepting of Sam Bennett in a bottom six role than you are with Jake Virtanen when Jake's not on his game. But I don't know. I think I would, if you take out contracts, I would take Jake Virtanen over Sam Bennett, just because you never like that. Again, it's that he still has that offensive upside when he's on that I think is a step above Sam Bennett. But Sam Bennett with his contract being up this year, I think is more valuable to a team right now for cap flexibility.
that's fair. But that's all I'm saying is it just what I'm saying though is we're getting this like we got to give Sam Bennett these chances. He's been given chances. Geoff Ward gave him chances. He had him play with Monahan and Goodrow. He had him play on the number one line. He's given him every single chance possible. He hasn't always responded. He has responded in the playoffs. I won't dispute that in any way, shape, or form. But in order to get into the playoffs, he's not playing the same way. And I think that's a frustration.
I think it also has to do with how different the game is called in the playoffs in comparison to the regular season, right? So you can say that he hasn't made that much of an impact, but that's where his bread and butter is, and it's been proven the few playoffs that they have the Calgary Flames have gone into. So my point was that I just think that you have a new lease on life when you have a brand new head coach. So you got to give him a shot. You can't just write him off, especially with that asset. And imagine if he does go off, how much more does his trade value skyrocket? How much more does it climb when he starts playing well, right? And that proves that he can play the way that we've wanted him to play his entire career. I'm just saying that there's potential there for him to showcase Sam Bennett for a trade.
I just think to me, before Sean, if you were going to respond, I think to me when you say you want to change the scenery and you want out, that to me doesn't say that you want to be part of the organization. And I think keep riding him out there, I think has been part of the distraction issue for the Flames. And I think that they need to decide, okay, Sam, they need to have this conversation. Sam, either you want to be here or not. where you can't play one way or the other. And if you don't want to be here, I don't think that they should play him. And that may be an unpopular opinion, and you may not get the trade value that you want. But I can't see a guy that's not wanting to be there being a valuable piece to what they're trying to do and get into the playoffs. Maybe I'm in the minority, but
who would be better to have on this lineup than Sam Bennett?
Derek Ryan, 100%.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Outside of Derek Ryan, like realistically, like you're talking about, we all know Derek Ryan and what he brings to the Flames, but outside of the tweeners, the people who are in and out of the lineup, who would you rather have in this lineup?
You're not going to like my answer, but someone that wants to play for represent the Calgary Flames in a hockey game, because they will give that 100%. It may not be the same 100% that Sam Bennett's going to give, but it will be the 100% to try to win. I'm not convinced that Sam Bennett is on the team to win. If you're telling me he wants out, that's a bad sign.
The answer is Brett Richie.
And Brett Richie, Brett Richie has been outstanding in his 2 games. He's been a beast.
Yep.
He looks like Jim Poplinski, but actually with more skill.
But yeah, not to get back to the Trey Living thing, the whole right side on the Flames forwards has been a rotating group that hasn't performed well enough. And I think that's part of the issue. Sam Bennett's been part of that rotating crew. Levo's been part of that rotating crew. Simone's been part of that rotating crew. They're now throwing in Richie. And to see what happens with that right side up front under Darryl Sutter is going to be one of the key spots that I look at, as well as the power play.
And the power play was not one of Darryl Sutter's strengths when he was here. I mean, they got goals at opportune times, but that wasn't exactly a masterpiece of power play. That wasn't exactly Badger Bob Johnson power play time in Calgary.
Yeah. I just think that what Darryl Sutter does within the next 2 to 3, even 4 weeks, will definitely resonate throughout the entire room. Who is going to be willing to go through a wall for the guy beside him? Who is willing to show up every single game and put out everything that you can? Because if you're not, and if you don't, the plus side about getting Darryl Sutter involved with his organization is that he doesn't give a shit about your name on the back of your jersey. He doesn't care how much money you make. He cares about if you're willing to put in the work and put in the effort. And if Sam Bennett is not willing to do that, absolutely put Brett Richie in. If Sean Monahan isn't willing to do that, all right, yeah, put him down the lineup. Bring up somebody else who is willing to fucking do that, because otherwise it's just the same shit over and over again. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, then we know that it's all the players. And that's where it comes down to every single time. It's like you have to make sure that the people on your team or the guy sitting next to you is willing to go through a wall for you and go through a wall with you. And yeah, Darryl Sutter is going to weed out the bad seeds.
And that's not a bad thing. And I do think that, Tree Living talked about it. This is on the players. And as much as I'm critical of Tree Living, I think the players need to. This is on the players. They need to wear this. This core has and this is not the first core that has done this. This has been a core over the years that has not always given a shit. This happened during the Iginla era. This is happening now during the Giordano era. This happened before. So this has to change. That's something, and I think, can Darryl Sutter help with that? Absolutely. Is Darryl Sutter a 2021 hockey coach? I think that's the biggest and deepest question that we're about to find out.
We are just over 5 weeks away from the trade deadline, and if Darryl Sutter can weed out those players and they can move them for assets or swap them for other players, that's great. But again, you're still, even after that, you're still waiting 2 to 3 weeks for these players, whoever you're getting back to come into this lineup. So whether or not he's weeding them out for this, he's most likely weeding these players out for the beginning of next year. I don't think we're seeing many trades, many Canadian teams making trades for players at or around the deadline this year, unless they're getting it from a Canadian team because of the quarantine issues. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen with this roster. And I think if this was Darryl Sutter coming in as the interim coach, trying to prove himself that he's still a coach at this at the NHL level, and the game hasn't passed him by, and they didn't sign him to the 3-year extension, the 3-year contract that they did, I'd be a lot more on board for this. But because they've signed him for that the 2 years after this year as well, I think that's where I wonder. But I guess it's definitely going to be fun to watch, to see who Daryl is able to push the right buttons for, and who shuts down under Daryl, because there will be one or two players who shut down under Daryl. That's just the way he coaches.
Yep. And there will be players that will thrive for sure. I mean, I guess really for the Canadians, the trade deadline is in 3 weeks. Not, I mean, officially it's 5, but really it's 3 in a lot of ways. And I mean, even you look at they did announce that they're retaining assistant coaches. I can't see that for next year. I do think Darryl Sutter will want to bring in a couple of his pieces there. And I do wonder what the side conversation was there in terms of what Daryl wants Brad to get, because I don't think that Daryl went in and said, okay, this is the lineup and I can get him a Stanley Cup. I think Daryl will want a couple of other pieces to fix that roster. I think he has some things he wants as well that Brad's going to need to get done.
Say hello to third line center Brandon Sutter.
No, I don't. I don't see it.
Man, I don't see that at all. You're pulling at something there, Sean, but it's not the right string.
What was I going to ask? The other question that I have is, how long do you think that this was going on? When do you think that they kind of decided we're going with Daryl?
I know I have inside sources, surprisingly enough, that this decision was made last week.
Wait, are you an insider?
I just got my little birds that talk to me every once in a while, but I know for a fact that it started at very, very earliest last week, and that they have made this decision and that they are going forward with it. As far as going back to like you said before, Kevin, in the off season or in the COVID break, they were trying to decide, okay, whether or not who to go with, and it was between Darryl Sutter and Geoff Ward, and you said it best, Kevin. It was always in Brad Treliving's back pocket, and I think that maybe the contract wasn't really where Daryl wanted it to be as far as term, as far as how much he's getting, and that might have pushed it towards Geoff Ward, because we know that this organization has a hard time paying head coaches. So I think that might have been the issue, but yeah, it could have been months.
Okay, I'm just looking back here. So Treliving, I could see it because you had the Treliving blow up on 960 2 weeks ago, which he didn't say Geoff Ward. He didn't say one way or the other. He didn't give anything about Geoff Ward at that particular point in time. And then remember what Milan Lucic said on Monday, and I think that people, I caught it, was he said people in this organization need to look in this mirror. He didn't specifically say players. He said people. And I do think that there was something specific about that. I think the players knew. I think at the very least, I think the core leadership did know that there was a change coming. I could see it.
Yeah, if
and
you
I'm,
look
I'm
at
not an
the
insider.
yeah, if you look at the Trilliving's interview was done on February 19th. They lost 2-1 to Edmonton, and then the very next day in the back-to-back, they got slaughtered 7-1. Then I think that was probably the tipping point there. He went off, he did that, and then they still came back and had an absolutely horrendous effort during that weekend. I think that was probably when everything started the wheels started turning and everything. And then they had the 2 games against the Leafs where David Rittich stood on his head and kept them in it. They got 1 win out of that. And then they blew up, and then they got destroyed by Ottawa 6-1. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they were just making sure that they had everything covered, and the contract was agreeable for both parties, Sutter and the Flames, starting from last week.
Yeah, I think it's certainly interesting. We've seen this work before with other teams. Craig Berube won a Stanley Cup. Mike Sullivan won a Stanley Cup. Rick Bowness got a team to a Stanley Cup final last year. So the coaching change has had some proven success before. Darryl Sutter actually has done it. Didn't he come in late with LA in 2012, put that team, revamped that team, and got him a Stanley Cup? He's done it before. He's got cups. I think there's a lot of good things, but it's gonna be interesting how this team responds. And maybe if they don't do it this year, maybe we see a deep shakeup within the core. We'll see. I think that it's absolutely fascinating to see what's going to happen here. Is there anything else on this that we need to talk about? I feel like
I do think that under a regular quote unquote normal season, I think that trade happens before they make this move for Darryl Sutter. But I think I know I did say Trilliving needs to get off his hands. I still think that, but I still think that there are extenuating circumstances that he decided that he couldn't get back what it didn't make sense with the 2 to 3 weeks that you're going to have to wait to get any NHL players back for this trade, and decided to go with the coach route. Before we get to, this may relate to Benning a little bit. I'm just going to ask this, and maybe this is a nonsensical question, but I just want to ask it. For the Canadian teams, we're getting more word of vaccines coming, more word today. Do you think that the NHL would go back to the Canadian government and see if there's another way to push this quarantine to shorten it? I think they will, but they won't get it. All the talk is it's all in the summer by the time we get all the vaccines and everything done for Alberta, BC, and all that. So I don't see it, and especially if the states don't necessarily, we don't see significant changes down in the states. So it's a complicated issue, and I think they will try, but I don't think we'll see much change in terms of that. And it'll also depend on what province and what team is doing it too. I could see Calgary and Edmonton being able to lower the quarantine time maybe in a month, depending on how things go. I could see that just because of we've been a little bit more willing to make things happen here in Alberta than in other places in Canada. But the Canucks, for the Jets, for Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal, I think that's a little bit a tougher sell.
And don't think that, you could definitely make a trade with the States team, but you can also make, if there's going to be a team that's going to be out of the playoffs other than Ottawa as of right now, and I know they still have a chance, but we all, I think, other than Kevin, thinking that they could potentially make a push, that they're out.
I said a playoff run. They couldn't get in a roll. They could.
They definitely could. But what I'm getting at is that there could be a trade within this North Division that could be a massive shakeup depending on which team or who's involved. So there's always that possibility as well.
Yeah, but I mean, it's likely that you're going to have to trade outside the North if you want to make that move. So
likely for sure. But at the same time, is the North going to be intact for this the next year? We don't know that, but the percentage is going towards, we'll probably go back to the way that we had things before COVID hit, and so a trade to the East might actually be potentially a landing spot for a big player.
Fair enough. Is everyone okay on the Darryl Sutter front? Devin, are you okay?
I'm fine. I just have a hard time when there's criticism thrown when nothing has happened yet towards Darryl Sutter. So I'm good. Thanks.
I'm not criticizing. From what I heard in this press conference from Darryl Sutter, I'm genuinely, actually, honestly impressed with him. My issue with this is Tree Living. I have more of an issue with Tree Living, and I'm more critical of him than I am of Darryl Sutter. I think at some time, and I think, let me say it this way, and maybe Sean will challenge me or see if I'm on the right track here. If Brad Treliving did some of the things if some of these things happened in Vancouver that Brad Treliving has done here, I don't think he would get the media pass that he's gotten in Calgary. I really don't. I think that there would be a lot more scrutiny on him in Vancouver. I think his advantage is he has the ability to speak to the media. He's very confident with that, as with the current gentleman is not as. But I think the Canucks media would give him a hell of a lot more scrutiny for his performance than he's gotten here in Calgary.
Well, I think in any market that is a bit more. So I guess just Toronto and Vancouver, he probably would have. And there's certain things that, yes, he has done that has been questionable and that hasn't really worked out yet, and which is completely fine. But once again, I feel like his overall stint here, he's tried. And saying that these trades need to happen now is where I get my backup, because we don't know what's coming back. We don't know, it could be a Joe McGinley fucking trade where it's who the hell do we have left after Joe McGinley left? Who? No one. And we don't want to make those same mistakes. So that's why I have my backup whenever Tree Living gets criticized. And transferring to Jim Benning, man, I'd rather have Brad Tree Living than Jim Benning.
Future poll question. I did not. To full disclosure, I did not hear any of the press. So I'm going to give this to Sean, and I have my observations, and I will respond. But I didn't hear anything, so I'm going to give this to Sean. I can only be at one place at once. So.
Yeah, when you've got both Flames and Canucks hosting press conferences at the same time, it's kind of tough. I've made my rant on Jim Benning a week ago, and the Aquilinians, and this didn't help anything. Jim Benning made tons of excuses that every team's gone through. Oh, we had a short training camp. Yeah, so did everyone else. We had some new guys come in. Yeah, so did everyone else. It's just Jim Benning is not a good public speaker, and it really hurts him trying to even if he has a plan, which it's apparent he doesn't, because he talks about how he's playing this season day by day. Like, what does that mean? Like, there is no confidence in Jim Benning in Canucks fandom right now. Yeah, there's a few people here and there, but for the majority of fans, no confidence that he's going to be the guy who can help this team build on what they did last year in the bubble and have this young core grow. He keeps talking about how it's on this young core to build, to grow and everything, but you need to put a good team around them, and he hasn't. And he really didn't say anything of note that really it's going to change anyone's mind on what he on anything. If you're a Jim Benning supporter, you're going to support him. I don't know why though. And if you're Jim Benning detractor, you're not going to. This just proved your point. He talks his way in circles. He throws out excuses that every team has gone through, and then I don't know. I just felt deflated after that press conference, because it makes me feel like this until they get a new GM in there. There's nothing that nothing's going to change. They're going to continue to throw money at overpriced veterans just to appease the owner. Like, I'm tired of that. Like, I know Tyler said that a bunch of times, but I'm tired of that. Like, you got if you're an owner and you want to spend and you want to get people in to teach these kids, get good players you aren't overpaying. We talked about it last time in terms of they replaced Nick Dowd with Jay Beagle, and Nick Dowd outperformed Jay Beagle for less than a quarter of the cost. Like, there's so many issues with what Jim Benning has done over the past few years, and the Roosters have come. They just come home to roost, and they're getting. He's every criticism that Jim Benning's getting now is fully legitimate, and he keeps finding ways to dance around it and not actually answer the questions and not show any accountability for everything. He was asked if he felt regret for the Louis Eriksson signing, and he basically brushed it off and said no. And all he had to say was, we signed Louis to a contract, that contract, expecting him to be better than he has been, and it hasn't gone the way we planned. You say that, you're being truthful, you're being honest, you're not throwing you're not like completely throwing the player under the bus, and you're showing accountability. He's not showing accountability. He's not communicating well, and he's finding ways to just completely deflate what is a very passionate Canucks fan base.
Hey, let me see if let me ask you a question. I'm going to pull this tweet up to get your thoughts on it. It's from Thomas Drance. You know the tweet I'm pulling up, Sean. But I'm just curious because a lot of people are agreeing with him. Whatever your reaction to Jim Benning's comments today, and there was worrying stuff, it's important that the GM of the Canucks franchise to be out front and asking questions. We'll scrutinize what was said as we should, but give kudos where it's due. He hung in there. So do you feel that this was a worthwhile exercise? Are you glad that you heard from Jim Benning today?
I'm glad he put himself out there, but I'm not happy with what he said, and happy with him just bumbling out there. Give him all the credit in the world. Give him all the credit in the world for spending 35 minutes finding ways to dance around questions and not actually answer them, but or give bad answers and really deflate the fan base. Sure, give him credit for that, but the answers were not good enough. And there's absolutely no confidence in his abilities to be a GM, to be able to take this core team with Pettersson and Hughes and Demko and Horvat and Besser and Höglander, and they've got Podkolzin coming over, and build around it and be able to build a contender. I have no confidence in him to do that. even if it is correct that there's a lot of meddling from the owners and from the Aquilinis, you still need someone who can actually bring in the right players and not and know when to say, look, I understand why you want us to bring in these veteran players, but this veteran player is going to come for $1 million cheaper and 1 year less. And that will help us in the long run. And Benning has not been able to do that. He's always overpaid in cap, and he's always overpaid in term. And he's hamstrung himself. He's hamstrung the team, and he's made it so that the Canucks cannot build on this young core. And then he says that after 7 years under Jim Benning, he says that we have to wait another 2 years to be a contender. This is my issue with Brad Treliving, is he's been there for 7 years, and has he done any other than like swapping deck chairs and making? There are some big trades, and he has brought in some good players, but this results aren't there, and they're even less there with the Canucks, and yet we're still talking about him as a potential future GM of the Canucks going forwards.
To me, this speaks all Aquilinis, man. Like it's just him, Jim Benning being a yes man to the Aquilinis, and that's what the Aquilinis want, and he's running with it, and he's making a killing over there from my perspective, from not doing anything. He is a figurehead, but the Aquilinis are just tickling those ivories right behind him, man, every time.
And it's wrong. You're robbing. You're a company that sells a on ice product to your consumers. There is no consumer confidence in this team, in the person running this team, to put out a product that is good, that can create buzz, that can create excitement. No, it's all doom, it's all gloom because of Jim Benning's moves and the Aquilinis forcing him to make moves, if that is actually the case.
Well, I think where it's going to really, really hurt is, I think ultimately what's going to happen is I think they're going to lose Travis Green, and I think that is, I know that there's a lot of people out there this week that were upset about his handling of the Demko Holtby situation in Winnipeg, and I get it, because Demko has been outstanding and Holtby has not been. But I think Travis Green is a damn good coach that you do not want to lose. Now, someone may say, are you going to win a cup with Travis Green? I don't know, but he hasn't necessarily had the talent around him to prove that he could be a superior coach. Like could be an upper echelon coach. I think he has the absolute potential. I think he's gotten a lot more out of this team than a lot of other coaches would. And I'm seeing I'm starting to see a huge disconnect between Jim Benning and Travis Green. And I'm starting to wonder if Travis Green is having confidence in this management organization that they're going to put that team on the ice that will allow him to contend. Like, if you're telling, you want Travis Green, you said you want to sign Travis Green to a contract, and now you've just told Travis Green we're going to wait 2 years to be another contender. What can you tell me why, from a Travis Green perspective, why I'm going to stick or hang around? Like, honestly, if there's other opportunities out there that it gives me a better chance to win, why would I not look at them?
Absolutely. I know I would be sticking around. The lifespan of a coach in this league, other than, let's say, a handful of them that have been around forever, there's turnover every single year. And if you're not going to be performing, and unless you get a contract, if winning is what you want, then yeah, absolutely. Why would you stick around when the GM is already saying that you're 2 years away? There's no way I would.
And that's the problem is, like, we had Jim Benning come out about a month ago say that he ran out of time with Toffoli. Guess what? He's going to run out of time with Travis Green. He's going to run out of time with Ian Clark. He's going to chase away players, coaches who are helping this team, because he's not willing to like he's gonna chase them away because he's just not. He keeps kicking the can down the road until he kicks it down a sewer grate, and now it's gone.
He said that already today. Just reading the notes here, he said that they're going to start with Pettersson and Hughes after the deadline, which one way or the other. But that's another that gives a perception to me that he's kicking that can down the road, and it's just. And then you hear, and whether you like him or not, the priority to sign Tanner Pearson. Okay, we're going to try to say Tanner Pearson. Okay. I'm not saying he should or should not, but I don't know. I think the more priority here is to get Pettersson, Hughes, and Travis Green done. I mean,
Ian Clark as well. Then you also got Thatcher Demko, who needs a new contract.
Like it just doesn't seem like his priorities are well positioned at this particular point to put this team in a successful position.
That meme of the weekend from the Super Bowl halftime show running through that hallway, that's Jim Benning trying to GM. Trying to find his way out, and he can't.
Let me find that. Anyway.
I know Tyler's not on today, but he's been trying to like be the rational, like just keep things in perspective type of person. But at this point, like what is the point of that? Like you have no consumer confidence in Jim Benning to be the Canucks GM. You're almost halfway through this season and you're barely hanging on to any sort of playoff hopes. They basically have to play 600 plus hockey to even have a chance to get into the playoffs. And we went from feeling so good about the team after they were able to Travis Green outcoach Craig Berube in that St. Louis series. The Canucks beat the defending Stanley Cup champions in the first round of the playoffs. Gave the Vegas Golden Knights all they could handle. Thatcher Demko played like an absolute 10, like a Conn Smythe winner, like a Vezina winner. Like he was that good in that series. And then you go off and you have an off season where you have bumbling Jim Benning trying to chase around a leaf that keeps blowing away, and then finally gets a couple things, but loses big pieces of the locker room. And now we're seeing him doing it again, where he's just chasing. He's not being proactive. He's not going, okay, look at this. Like we're not going to be in the playoff. Realistically, we're not going to be in the playoffs. So let's find a way, see what we can do to sell off assets and get some more draft capital for him. If there's any strength that this regime has, that Jim Benning has, it's been drafting. So why doesn't he want to get more draft picks?
How dare you, Tyler? First of all, how dare you be rational? God,
what
shame on
nonsense is
you.
this?
Shame on you.
Shame on you,
especially when you can't talk back. Jeez.
Yeah, Tyler.
I appreciate his stance on this, but at this point, it's just and him and I were pretty aligned in how we looked at things up until I would say about 2-3 weeks ago. But I'm at the point where I'm just like, what's the point of just continuing on this path that the Canucks have been on for now 7 years? What is the point of it? Like, there is no consumer confidence. People continually bring up the same issues over and over and over again. You know why? Because Jim Benning's still here. Because he's still there, and there's no confidence that he's learned from his mistakes. Especially when he says, "Oh, we're taking things day by day, and when we get to the draft, when we get to the deadline, we'll see what we can do." No, I want you to be proactive. I want you to say, let's look at the standings. It's a long shot for us to make the playoffs. Let's look at what we can do to help our team next year. If he does that, there's going to be more confidence in him that he can actually do this long term. Now it just looks like he's just sitting there with twiddling his thumbs going, I don't know what to do. I can't, do something. Be proactive. Like, find a way to shake things up.
And, I think that this is, with the Leafs in town and the Leafs kind of being kind of the standard bearer of the North, and Devin will probably appreciate it. I think one of the things that you can see that is a difference between the Leafs and the Canucks is, they were able to get Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza on those veteran leading contacts and mock that all you want on those discounts. But the Leafs have absolutely created a culture where if you're Joe Thornton, if you're Jason Spezza, you're a veteran that wants that one last crack at getting a Stanley Cup, where would I go, Toronto or Vancouver? I would go to Toronto because I feel I have a better shot at doing it. In Vancouver right now, you're telling me we're not contending for another couple of years. So you're going to have to, if you want veterans there, you're going to have to overpay for a Jay Beagle, a Louis Eriksson, or whatever other veteran out there until you can prove to me that you can be in for a contend for a Stanley Cup.
And it's not like Vancouver is a shitty place to live.
No, I live here.
Exactly. So there has to be something within that organization that needs to change. And it's Jim Benning. You don't want to lose Travis Green. And maybe you can get a different ownership group. That's the tier, right? Ownership, GM, coaching, players. And it's weird because like if I was a free agent, I would love to go to Vancouver. It's gorgeous place to live. But the organization that is there right now, there's something wrong with it. And once again, going back to the Aquilinis, I do not think that they are willing to give a GM full reins and what they need to do to make sure that they're going to be successful. Why did Trevor Linden not work out?
That's a little different. There was other politicking going on with Weisbrod and Benning, but you're right. I guess if it is the Aquilinis meddling, they need to fucking stop or find an owner who's willing to give to step away and let the hockey ops run itself. And until that happens, it's going to be the same thing over and over and over again. We saw the Daryl Cates and the Oilers continuing to do that and bringing in the old Oilers guys. I think you could maybe argue that that's what the Flames are doing, but with the Canucks, like it's just if the Aquilinis are legitimately meddling and saying we want you to sign a veteran player, you still have to have a little bit. You still have to have someone in there who can identify which veteran player is right to go after and how much to pay and how long the term should be. That doesn't hamper the team long term. Say Benning doesn't. It comes in and does that, and it gets. Maybe it's not Jay Beagle. Maybe it's someone else, but gets them signed to a 2-year deal instead of a 4-year deal. And they're going into this offseason with a lot more cap space, and they're able to keep, say, Chris Tanev and keep Tyler Toffoli, or even just Toffoli. I think that changes things immensely. And yes, a lot of these things didn't turn out the way they planned, but someone has to answer to that. Whether it's Aquilini for forcing it on them, whether it's Benning for making that decision, or the player for not producing, or all three need to actually answer to it. But at this point, just continuing on this same path that they've done for the past 6-7 years is not going. It's fruitless. They've made the playoffs twice. They've won one cup. They've won one series. They've found a way to waste away good years of young players, and now you have the fan base, the media have no confidence in the guy who's supposed to be running things, in Jim Benning, to make sure that the next 3 to 4 to 5 years are going to be better. We have no confidence in that. None. We're expecting the same old shit over and over and over again until there's a new person in charge. And when I went on my rant I talked about how the fan base is angry right now, and unless there's a unless there's a change, the apathy is going to step in, and set in at the exact moment of time when you can put fans into arenas again, and they're not, and they're going to have probably a handful of games where you're going to get close to selling out because people are still going to be feeling out. You want people like demanding to get in there, and fans aren't going to be that way because there's still going to be some worry about getting together as in mass gatherings, even after everything with vaccines gets through. You're still your people are going to still feel uncomfortable in big crowds too, because we're now going on almost a year now since that first shutdown, middle of March, and people are going to be very wary about what they do even after the vaccines are done and we're kind of out of the woods. So if you don't have people who are raring to go, wanting to go watch this young, fast, awesome team that you're excited for because you know the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years are going to be good, fun hockey. You're going to be able to watch them win more often than not. If you don't have that, you're not going to whatever novelty that is going out to watch a hockey game is going to wear off really, really quick. And as a lifelong Canucks fan, as someone who turns 35 tomorrow, I've seen 2 cup runs, both ending in heartbreak. I've seen more shitty seasons than good seasons. I've seen this team look. I see the potential in this team, but it's not going to realize its potential under Jim Benning. It's not going to realize its potential if the Aquilinians continue to meddle and not let the people that they hire do their jobs. So if the Canucks are to build around this young core, this exciting young core with Petey and his ridiculous shot, the skating of Quinn Hughes, Thatcher Demko's looking like a top tier goaltender. I saw a tweet putting him in the top 5 of goals saved above expectation.
Did you tweet that?
No. I wish I was that smart to be able to do that and crunch the numbers and find that out. I wish, but you've got all this. You've got other players coming in, but there's no confidence. And I know I'm going around in circles, but that's the whole point. There is absolutely no confidence that Jim Benning can take this team to the next level. There's no confidence that under the current setup that the Canucks are going to go from being a mediocre team to a playoff team to a contending team. No confidence. Do I have confidence that the Leafs can take that next step? I think I do. Because they have someone who has a vision and he's sticking to it. He's learning from it. He's tweaking his vision, but he's sticking to this vision and he's communicating it. Do I feel confident that the Habs can turn the season around? Yes, because I understand that team has an identity and they've got some young players that are going through a bit of a rough patch. And if they can get those young players going again, watch out. Do I have confidence that the Oilers can take the next step? Yes, because they've got someone who's running things better than they have in the past. They've got Ken Holland, who is actually starting to build culture there. They've got 2 absolutely stud superstars that can lead the way. Do I have the confidence in the Canucks? They're a couple of years behind both the Leafs and the Oilers in terms of where their young players are, but I do not have confidence in the GM to be able to build around that. This isn't basketball where you can get 1 to 2 players and rocket up the standings and become a contender. This is hockey where even your top players play usually at most around a third of the game. You need a full team. And regardless of how good your top players are, you still need to be able to fill out that roster with capable players and not hamper yourself with overpaid players lower down in the roster.
As far as the Oilers, as far as you're talking about the confidence and comparison to other North, I still think the Oilers, yes, they have the 2 wonderful superstars. We keep raving and loving them and all of that. But there's still so much wrong with that team. There is. Like, I'm sorry. And I'm not. The Ken Holland has a hell of a lot of work. Still has a hell of a lot of work to do in Edmonton. A hell of a lot of work to do.
Oh, he does. But that blue line is finally rounding into form. They've got Darnell Nurse, who is I'm still not quite sold of it as a full, true number 1 defenseman, but he's getting close. And he's continuing to improve. Then they've got some young defensemen coming up in the to surround him with. Bouchard, Ethan Bear. They've got Philip Broberg's going to be someone who's going to step in next year once he's fully healthy again. Like they've got some young players growing into roles there. And you've got someone who you kind of feel you have confidence in that can steer the ship through the choppy waters. Do you feel comfortable with Jim Benning steering the ship through the choppy waters?
No. Ken Holland is a better GM than Jim Benning. I'm not, and a better communicator than Jim Benning, and a better communicator to ownership than Jim Benning. I fully agree with that. But I guess to me, the one caution that I would say to you, to Canucks fans, is I think that there's a lot of Canadian teams that are in a very similar situation. They're kind of in this middle mud, having to make some drastic moves and lacking a little bit of I don't. To me, honestly, and I know Sean is going to definitely disagree with me on this. I think right now there are 5 really bad teams in this North Division, and I would
they're not really bad. They're not really bad.
They are really bad. I'm sorry.
No, they aren't, Kevin.
They're really bad teams.
I threw out a bunch of stats at you yesterday about this North Division. It's the highest scoring division in the league. They do not have the biggest spread between the top and the bottom of this league. That's the worst division in this league is the Central.
I would have to go with the North, but my point on this is like I understand what you're saying. It seems like there's more confidence, the communication there. I agree with you. I don't think that Jim Benning has done a great job in communicating, and I think that change needs to be made. But at the same time, to bring in the spirit of Tyler, a Canadian team has not won a Stanley Cup since 1993. It's been a long time. And I think my point really comes down to it is I think there's a lot of the Canadian teams, other than Toronto right now, are sort of in this same middling mud position. It's hard to get. You have to overpay for free agents. You have to be drafting really, really well. You've got to hit on some of these big name franchises, and you're not. I don't know if right now a Canadian team, other than Toronto, maybe Devin can correct me if I'm wrong, can go on a sustained. I'm going to go on a run for a really long time. That's that. I just think that we're all in a sort of the same boat, and I think there are some other underlying issues there. I'm not disagreeing with you. To me, Jim Benning has to go for Vancouver. I think that is a very important step. But in terms of ownership, I don't. And then the other side of that, the problem here in Vancouver is I don't think that there's an ownership that can step up and truly afford buying this team right now. That's the other problem. I think this is going to be under the Aquilini's reign for some time. like it or not. And I think that's the other difficulty there. But to me, maybe Devin sees it differently than me, but I think most of these Canadian teams, we're all in the same boat.
They definitely are. I don't. Them being the worst, I don't know. They as far as being playoff contenders, and if they played other teams that are, if say for instance, everything was the same as it was before COVID, that we had an East and a Western conference, and then we had the divisions on underneath that. I do not see. Other than Toronto and potentially Montreal, as of right now, I guess Winnipeg too, I don't see anybody else that is really up there and who would actually make a push for the playoffs. And I think that's what Kevin, essentially that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to see, to say that, okay, Vancouver, you have a shot. Calgary, you have a shot. And they do have shots. They aren't out of it yet. But the amount of confidence that I would have, and if I was a betting man, which sometimes I am, I wouldn't say that those 5 teams would be have a high chance of making the playoffs.
That's sort of my point. I think we're all kind of in the same, but yeah.
No, I'm sorry. You look at the teams that would be in that Pacific Division. Both Flames, Oilers would be in the playoffs right now, or at least battling for the playoffs. Oilers would be there in the playoffs. Flames would be battling for a playoff spot. You look at it's. You're telling me they couldn't battle for a spot with Arizona, LA, San Jose, and Anaheim?
I'm not saying that they can't. I'm saying I don't. Right now, the way that they're playing, the confidence that I have for them to push, they could push, but I don't see I do not have confidence in them to really get there with the way that they're playing.
Yeah,
right now, if it was a normal year and they had the Pacific Division, to be Vegas, Edmonton, and then everyone else.
Yeah.
It really depends on how you Calgary play against Vegas, how Calgary play against other good teams within this conference or within that conference. I mean, Arizona could steal some because they have a fucking great goalie. They have a great tandem there.
LA has been pretty good this year too.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess to me, the way I would look at it is the way I see it is I see 5 teams would be coming out of the Central and 3 teams would be coming out of the Pacific for the playoffs. And I think at best, Calgary and Vancouver are competing for a wild card spot. Maybe Edmonton at this particular point could be competing for a top 3, maybe. But I think
they would be. Kevin, come on. I know you're a Flames fan. I know you're a Canucks fan, and you love laughing at the Oilers, but they are a playoff team right now. Despite the fact that they're going through goalies, Flames go through head coaches. They are a playoff team right now.
The Oilers, you seriously think the Edmonton Oilers would? Okay. Let's. How many? What would happen if they're in the playoffs?
They'd have to hope that one of their goalies gets hot. That's what it is.
I think that's my point. That's.
You're saying that there's 5 really bad teams in this North Division.
There are 5.
That was what you said.
Yes.
Which
just because you make the playoffs doesn't mean that you're a good team. I legitimately, I think has a chance to make a run. Sorry, I don't see it.
Good team. That's a great team, Kevin.
I guess to me, I've watched a lot of North hockey this year, and the way I look at it, I see Toronto as a really, really good, strong team. I see Winnipeg as a pretty good team. Ottawa is a hardworking team that they could streak. But everyone else, I just feels like in this murky, not good hockey.
I'm sorry, I can't agree with you saying that the North is the worst division and the hockey down south is better. When I think what's happened is that 90% of the games we get to watch up here on Sportsnet is part of the East Division, which is by far the best division, by far the most competitive division.
Well, I've watched. I just not only the East. I've watched Vegas, Colorado. I thought that was excellent hockey by two.
Yeah, that's the two best teams in that division. That's it, and then the rest is a big slum.
I think Minnesota's played really well. St. Louis.
They're all in that same like good at one point, then falling apart. They're all the same. They're all in the same boat that point.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree at this particular point in time, because I don't think we're going to agree on this. But we'll have a future debate about that. Maybe we'll make it a poll question, and we'll have a soon. Anyway, anything else on the Canucks?
Just make a damn move, please. Get rid of Jim Benning, please. Give us something to chew on for the rest of the season. That's not just like please.
Fair. Okay. Lots of disagreement with us today. We're not in alignment. That's okay. I think we will be in alignment here. Walter Gretzky passed away last night. Some call him Canada's dad. Certainly, he has made an impact. Is he in the Hockey Hall of Fame?
Walter?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think under what category?
Well,
a builder.
Maybe like this is sort of like the Joey Moss thing. He has someone that has contributed to the game of hockey, and you don't have necessarily a category for what he has done for the game of hockey, but that does not mean he should not be recognized in some way by the Hockey Hall of Fame in some way, shape, or form, that he should be in there. I don't know. I think that there's got to be a way for that. If that hasn't, I'm just curious. I didn't have time to look today, but
no, he's not, and that's just because of the way they've structured it. And I think there is the Hockey Hall of Fame should be telling stories and different things about that. And I think there's different ways that they can do that. He does have the Order of Canada, though, so that we as a country have acknowledged what he's done. He's Canada's hockey dad. That's what he is. Like, and it all my thoughts and everything go towards the Gretzkys and everything, because there's been so much bad press for what the hockey culture and everything is, but Walter and what he stood for and how he acted is what is good about hockey. Is what brings us together. That he was always had time for someone to talk to him, and was always looking to help cheer it and give smiles to people. And you'll be able to find numerous stories of just him finding ways to make people smile and go out of his way to do so. So he is someone that we should all strive to be like when we grow up.
Yeah, it obviously a sad day, and it really does suck. I mean, he was battling with Parkinson's. Everybody knew that it was kind of coming eventually, and he was the Canadian dad dream, if you will. Making a hockey rink in the backyard, getting Wayne out there, and some might argue that kind of like along the same lines as Tiger Woods' dad, Earl Woods, forcing his kid to do something. But both of them have created legends with doing that. So it's a sad day, and yeah, he will always be Canada's hockey dad, and whether or not they can, the Hockey Hall of Fame can find a way to celebrate the Joey Mosses and the Walter Gretzkys of the world. I think that'd be very cool, and have a kind of I don't know what you would really categorize that group as, but I think that would be a really nice touch, and having and showing off not just the hockey players and the typical GM builder coaches. There's other people out there who have made massive impacts on this game that aren't in those typical roles. So hopefully that they can find a way to honor those people, because they deserve to be honored. And you know that Walter Gretzky was very well known, and he will continue to be honored, even though he's not around anymore.
A humanitarian wing, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, with Wayne Gretzky and Walter, I mean, nobody has said anything bad about them. They've conducted themselves in class throughout throughout their time there. I mean, you even look back, Wayne Gretzky for Nagano not being used in the shootout. He could have blasted and said something. He never did. He never has spoken ill will of anybody. Walter has been a huge contributor to hockey in Brantford, Ontario. He's lived there all his life. Yeah, I mean, it's an icon, and it's a guy that absolutely deserves to be honored for what he has done. And I think hopefully this weekend on Hockey Night in Canada, there's some good stories about him, and I hope they do a detailed tribute. I think it was tough, especially in Calgary, when you're making a coaching change. That's sort of like top of the list. And in Vancouver, you've got a whole bunch of other things. You had a game last night, but hopefully this weekend, Hockey Night in Canada, hockey can do a good solid tribute too. Because I do think that is, I think the stories are being told for sure, but I hope he gets that specific honor. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, if Hockey Night Canada doesn't have any sort of tribute to him, then they've done him, hockey, and the Gretzky's disservice. But you got to know that Ron McLean will be talking about him in some sort of form or fashion.
Yep. Is there anything else we need to bring up?
Well, I mean, Brent Seabrook retires as well, and that's big part of that dynasty in Chicago, big part of gold medal in Canada for the Olympics. And yeah, it's an unfortunate way to go, the way that he's gone out of the NHL. And I just think about the good times, and that watching him play, because he was a big hard-nosed defenseman, glassing out type of guy, but he made a big impact. The one thing I really do remember was in the playoffs when Jonathan Taves kind of went off a little bit. And there's that picture of him tapping him on his head while Jonathan Taves is in the penalty box saying, "Hey, we need you." And he was just a leader out there. Good Tsawwassen boy out in Vancouver, Lower Mainland area. So it sucks, but wish him the best going forward.
Yeah, having someone from the Delta Tsawwassen area is an area that is close to both Devin and my heart, as that's where our grandparents were when we spent a lot of time out there. So it's nice to see him come from that area and have such a great career, winning cups, winning gold medals. He was one of the few that on the Hawks that I didn't have the hockey hate on for, even during the heated Hawks Canucks rivalry days. So I just hope that he's able to recover enough to be able to enjoy the rest of his life post career.
Is he first ballot Hall of Famer?
no. Like that.
I'm just asking. I'm not saying like he should be in the Hall of Fame. Come on, Brett Seabrook. I'm asking.
No, as much as he's done, he's not. He shouldn't. He's one of those like really good players, like, but he's not. He may get in. He may get in just because of how lax they are in terms of letting players in. But if I was in charge, I wouldn't have him in, and that's not a knock against him. It's just I wish that the Hall of Fame was a little more strict on who gets inducted and who doesn't.
Yeah, I don't see him as a first ballot, but you definitely could see him be in there second time around for sure.
I think we'll see a few from that Hawks team get in, just like how they continued to induct 1980s Oilers into the Hall of Fame.
Yep, Duncan Keith will be in for sure.
Keith, Kane, Taves, all deserve to be in there. Hossa deserves to be in there, and then I think Seabrook is one of those borderline ones based off of the current standards, who probably will get in after a few years on the ballot.
All right, let's leave it there. We will be back on Sunday, 11 o'clock Pacific, 12 o'clock Mountain. We have the Leafs Canucks to recap. We have the Flames' first game in between the Darryl Sutter era and the Ryan Huska brief era to discuss the Battle of Alberta. And much, I'm sure there'll be other stuff to happen but this was I have to admit, this was one of the craziest, weirdest cycles of hockey news, and news overall today was just crazy. It was a crazy day.
Go from having the Flames beat up on the Sens to shotgun Jake ×2 and the Canucks beat the Leafs to holy crap, Darryl Sutter's back, and then you throw in losing Walter Gretzky, and not hockey related, but I think it's very
we should talk about that.
We should mention the CFL lost a great supporter of theirs, Chris Schultz, the big man. He's a voice of. I watch CFL all the time, and he's got a big, boisterous voice, big boisterous personality who love the CFL, and they lost. He's a big loss for the CFL and its community, and my thoughts go out to his family and friends as well.
Yeah.
He's someone that if you follow the CFL at all, you know exactly who he is, and he was definitely part of my growing up watching the CFL.
Yeah, I agree. Was a high supporter of the CFL, former NFL player, great analyst on TSN. Rest in peace, Chris Schultz. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm GordHouse09 on Twitter.
Schneids, SCHNEIDZ, T-Noble, TNOBLE. Now another nickname, the voice of reason. How many more nicknames will we give Tyler?
Oh, God. Let's keep on pumping that.
We miss you.
Yes.
Jesus.
And I am KBOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, a hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast, where we are currently at the Micro 4 leak of subscribers, 67. And so please subscribe, tell your friends. We're the most underrated podcast in hockey. Thanks, everyone, for watching this emergency podcast and listening to us vent. And we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.